like the only way you can be successful is if you are you. Even your goals, you
Mhm.
can't take on somebody else's goal. It has to be the goal that you want for it to
Yeah.
actually happen. So that's the best advice.
Hey, 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 everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. I am so happy you're here with us today because I brought my friend Linda Sidhu here with us, and we are talking all things networking and connecting and collaborating. And Linda is the person to teach you all the things. So, welcome, Linda. Happy you're here.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Let's just jump into some rapid fire to get everyone up to speed, and then we'll do like a proper introduction here in a quick sec. But I know you love to travel. So, my first question is, where's your favorite place that you've traveled to lately?
So lately, it has to be Maui. I just got back from spring break in Maui. Maui is wonderful. It's very spiritual. Like I always want to cry when I leave there. Have you been to Maui? I love it.
Girl, you're going to make me cry because I was supposed to be in Maui in June, but I postponed the trip until November because sweet little Mackenzie made the softball all-star team, which is super exciting, but also put a little bit of a cramp on my summer travel. So we're going to Maui in November now over
That's
Thanksgiving.
great. That'll be perfect
Yes.
timing. So you'll enjoy
Yes.
it.
You'll give me all the tips, I'm sure.
Is this your first time?
My first time to Maui. I've been to the Big Island, I've been to Oahu, I've been to Kauai, but we haven't been to Maui as a family. So I think it's
All
going to
right,
be so
let's talk.
fun.
I've been there 3 times, luckily. But yeah, I've got some definitely
Good
like
tips for
must
me.
do's for you.
Okay, perfect. On my to do list now to regroup on that. Okay, here's a tough one. When it comes to networking, do you prefer online or in person?
We were just chatting. This was like the hardest rapid fire question. I sat with this for like a whole day because I think both are very important.
Yeah.
One is, I guess, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like lower risk or more
Yeah.
accessible, obviously. So the virtual experience, it kind of levels the playing field for people. When I first started my job, leaned into a lot of virtual networking,
Mhm.
virtual experiences. I wasn't traveling, my son was young, so that was huge to me. But I gotta go with the in person because they always say miles makes you millions. And it's
Oh.
really meeting the people that's going to deepen that relationship and propel your business forward in ways that you can't do virtually. So in person.
In person. Okay. Yeah, that's a tough one too, because like we were chatting before we clicked record. I built my business on a virtual platform, but there's nothing quite like being in a room with people, especially when you've met them online before too. So then it's like everything's perfect. Okay, so this is a tough one. Best business advice anyone's ever given you?
Yeah, that was a tough one. It took me a minute to be like, was there any advice that was good? Just kidding. You get a lot of advice, right? But the best advice I received was probably from Laura Belgray. She was the first person that I heard say this, but she used
Yeah.
to say, get paid to be you. That was sort of like a
Interesting.
tagline, get paid to be you. And she really talks about like how you can write emails about your personal stories and you can sell things and all you have to do is be you. And to be honest with you, that kind of goes back to a lot of my quiz work and also the mixer mind, how I see, how I created the mixer mind, how I leaned into this community, the opportunity. It is really just being me. And so I
Yeah.
do think there is something there to just be you. And I'm even reading this book called Reality Transurfing. It's kind of
Okay.
weird. It's like a manifestation, graduate level manifestation type book.
Okay.
But yeah, I just went through a chapter where he was like, the only way you can be successful is if you are you. Even your goals, you
Mhm.
can't take on somebody else's goal. It has to be the goal that you want for it to
Yeah.
actually happen. So that's the best advice.
I love that. I love that. So good. Well, speaking of advice, I know there's lots of podcasts that you and I both listen to on the regular. Is there a podcast that you have been binging or you just can't get enough of, or you really look forward to their next episode?
Well, for fun, I like the podcast Smartless.
Uh-huh.
Do you know that one?
Yeah, I feel like I've listened to it a couple times, but it's not in my regular rotation.
Yeah, that one's fun. Like, if I just want, like, to not think about business and just
Yeah.
something fun to listen to, I love Smartless. The other business one is Ellen Yin's podcast, Cubicle to
Yeah.
CEO. That's usually the one that I go to catch up on when I'm traveling or if I have some extra time, if I wanna catch up on anything, it's usually hers. Ellen Yin,
I love
Cubicle to
it.
CEOs, hands down.
Amazing. Amazing. So good. Okay, so what would your Mixermind members maybe be surprised to know about you? So I'm one of Linda's Mixermind. We'll talk a little bit about that here in a minute, but it's a membership community that she runs that brings people together. So what would people be surprised to know about you?
Okay, I don't know if I've told a lot of people this, but so I'm pretty athletic, okay? Like, I used
Mhm.
to play soccer, I was good. I used to fast pitch, I was the pitcher. I was
Yeah.
good, I made travel teams, whatever. I was pretty athletic. But I always wanted to like cheer and be in gymnastics, and my parents never like gave me those opportunities. It was just like, you could play soccer, you could play softball, whatever. So when I got into college, I started to date a male cheerleader. He was hot, okay? He was hot.
Not
And
where I thought this question was going, so I'm loving this. Tell me more.
and so I started dating this guy. He was so nice, great guy. And I was really tiny in college. Like when you think of that show, The Summer I Got Pretty, it was like
Yes.
college for me. Like
Yeah.
I was in high school, I was so small, went through puberty late, whatever. But then when I got to college, I was like, summer I got pretty, right?
I have
And
arrived.
so anyway, I started dating this guy. He happened to be a male cheerleader, and I was really tiny, so he taught me how to stunt. And so we would
Okay.
just like go to the gym and I would be with the other male cheerleaders and they would be throwing me up in the air. So I learned how to stunt. So my sophomore year, after my freshman year of, dating this guy, during my freshman year when I started dating him, I was like, I want to try out for the cheerleading team. And I've never cheered in my life. And so I started at age 20 going to gymnastics, trying to learn how to do a back handspring. I managed to be able to do a standing back tuck. But
Yeah.
anyway, made the cheerleading team, and that is
That
that's at 20 years old, and I'd never cheered in my entire life.
and I bet you rocked it.
I killed it.
That is amazing.
So I
I,
thought that was a fun story.
that is a fun story. I have the opposite experience of that as a softball girly also growing up. When I was in 7th grade, I, like, thought maybe I could be a cheerleader, and our middle school had we didn't really have a cheer team, we made one up, and I remember wearing a white tennis skirt with airbrushed shirt, like, airbrushed with our school name on it, like, we were not it was not real cheer, I don't know what we were doing, but I tried, and I was terrible. And I
Oh,
learned that that was not
not
my
your
jam,
sport.
not my jam, and I went back to playing softball.
What position in softball were you?
I was a catcher. I was a catcher.
Oh, woo!
Catcher,
We would have
catcher.
been a
Look at
good
that.
team.
We would have been. Oh, that's amazing. I love that. 20 years old, starting something new, which it really brings us to the first question because, your background, you kind of started out as this quiz funnel expert. And I know your entrepreneurial journey started even before then. But now I really think of you as this super connector. Like Linda knows everyone and she's going to connect you with everyone and make sure that she gets you with the right people to make magic happen in your business. So tell us a little bit about that journey, how you ended up doing what you do today, and how you kind of realized or came to the realization that, like, okay, partnerships is really such a growth opportunity for business owners. And there wasn't really a forum to create those partnerships. So I'll let you share a little bit of your story, but that's kind of where I was headed next.
Yeah, I think what happened was when I was in the pharmaceutical industry, again, I kinda leapfrogged into the industry. I'd never been a pharmaceutical rep. Typically, you start off with, like, general doctors, but I didn't. I leapfrogged and I
Mm.
started in specialty, so I started calling on dermatologists, and that was a big deal. I was really nervous. I had a lot of imposter syndrome when I took this job, but one really cool thing that my company did was they taught me the DISC framework. So this
Yeah.
guy came in, he taught us more about DISC, and I got to learn more about my personality. I realized that I'm really into relationship based selling.
Mhm.
and that I'm a nurturer and I was kind of born this way, right? And so what he basically told me was just lean into being you, going back to that
Mhm.
fast start round that we had of like best
Yeah.
advice. So he was
Yep.
just like, just be you. Like these are your natural strengths. This is how you need to lean into sell. And I
Mhm.
actually did that. I went into the pharmaceutical world. I ended up being top 10 rep year after year after year for probably 10 years in a row. And I attribute my success to just like learning more about the doctor, figuring out what his patients needed, showing up in a way that supported them, and used my relationship to get to know them and to build trust and then ultimately sell my products. But I also understood the doctors. So I would do people reading. And if they were like a
Mm.
dominant doctor, I knew that I could never tell him what to do, that I had to give him options. He had to select which one worked best. And then I would say, great, try that out and let me know how that goes. And so, just understanding and people reading and kind of showing up that way, I realized that sales was just communicating with people. And so that kind
Mhm.
of lowered the stakes for me. And so when I launched my business as a solopreneur, I'd quit pharmaceutical sales, I retired, and I was staying at home with my son, and I was with him for 5 years, but I ultimately wanted to launch my own business. And so the only way I knew how to do it was like, well, I don't know how to sell to people unless I know their personality. And so I launched my first business with a quiz, a personality quiz. And so the
Oh,
thought
okay.
was like I would start to generate leads, segment who was which personality, then I would know how to communicate and sell to them. But what happened was I had a lot of success with this quiz. Even the quiz platform Interact reached out to me and said, "Why is your quiz converting so high? You've never created a quiz before. Like, what are you doing?" And so I kind of told them about my insight on personalities and the DISC framework. And
Yep.
then that sort of gave me a placeholder into the online world. That's what people started to know me for. But then in 2023, I got cancer, and the quiz stuff was sort of just put on hibernation just because I didn't have time or bandwidth to worry about it. And I was kind of burnt out from doing that anyway. But during that period, right before I was diagnosed with cancer, I had launched my first beta program of the Mixermind, which you're a part of now.
Yes.
And the Mixermind really just took off like shortly after my cancer diagnosis to the point where I had to like put quizzes on hold forever. Hopefully, I
Uh-huh.
bring them back at some point because there's a lot of really cool stuff in that course. But, anyways, in a nutshell, I also used my DISC framework through the lens of the Mixermind. And so, what I started to do was understand the customer journey. I matched people with that had similar audiences. I
Mhm.
realized that there was a gap in the market where we didn't have a place where people could just naturally show up, talk about what's working, maybe share what's not, but really build long lasting, mutually beneficial relationships. And so that was the Mixer Mind. And through the lens of DISC, that's kind of how I've created the success in my corporate and then on my online business experience too.
Oh my gosh. I love this journey so much, like starting back with, making it on the cheer team in college, because I think it's like our businesses iterate and they change and they evolve and life is happening all around us. And I love where you landed because it's been such a treat to be part of your community and meet other incredible people that are doing great work. And I think it's a little different than other masterminds out there, right? Like there's masterminds that are really meant for like brainstorming and business planning. And there's business coaches that are out there that are really focused on strategy. But this is truly built around helping people find the right people so everyone elevates and grows together. So it is a little bit more of like a traditional networking approach to the online space. And then, of course, there's an in person event once a year too. So, how did you land on that? Like, I'd love to hear kind of when you were like, okay, I could go business strategy or I could bring people together here. Like, what was it when you were like, gosh, this is what this community needs and I can bring that to the table?
Well, I want to start by saying I think it was my experience that allowed
Yeah.
me to be where I am right now. So
Okay.
without going through, what I did in pharmaceutical sales. So really, when I was in pharmaceutical sales, I loved calling on my dermatologists. I only had about 100 or 200 doctors. It was a specialty, so it wasn't like this big database of all these doctors that I had to see. It was really small. They knew each other. And
Yeah.
so I was like, what if I created a place where I could just serve entrepreneurs, kind of like I did
Okay.
when I was in dermatology.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where the idea started. And then I started doing these mixers online. They're very
Mhm.
similar to the mix and mingle events that I do inside the Mixermind. And
Yep.
people loved them. They were like, oh my gosh, this should be an offer. And I was like, what? This
Yeah.
is so fun. Like, how is this? Could I even monetize this? And then I just kind of felt like, okay, maybe there is something here. And so I think just it matched my experience. I found a gap in the market, and then I started to
Mhm.
listening to the community about what they needed.
What you're looking
And so
for.
I just kind of created a whole different business model that most people don't know of or wasn't
Yeah.
available to their traditional
Yeah.
online marketer, right? And so it was really like I'm also a manifesting generator. So maybe part of that was like my
Mhm.
manifesting part. But I really saw this vision and then I took the action to get there to see what played out.
All right, a little real talk. If your business lives on social media, you don't own it. Oh My High gives direct sellers a real website that's actually yours. Your links, your content, your personal brand, your email list. Not a replicated page that looks like everyone else's. We built it specifically for people just like you. There's no tech skills required. And as a podcast listener, get a free Capture and Convert homepage when you get started today. Visit the link in the show notes for the promo code or check it out over at ohmyhigh.com. Now, back to the episode. Yeah, I love it. I love it so much. And, I think in working in the direct sales space and with social sellers and network marketers, I think often people have been trained to think of people in the same category as competition, right? Like, oh, like I'm not going to share my strategy with that person because then they're going to steal my idea, right? So I would love maybe your point of view on that and how to just reframe collaboration over competition. Because I do think a lot of people step into a room, virtual or in person, just a little guarded and kind of like, ooh, like, do I want to collaborate? Do I want to put that person in front of my people? Do I feel comfortable sharing my audience with others? So, any suggestions on anyone listening that's kind of like, oh, I really haven't done any collaboration. I haven't even thought about partnering with others. And I'm not sure that that's for me.
Yeah, so I don't know if you knew this. I think you do. That I used to work for Beachbody, or they call it Body now.
Yes, yes.
Matter of fact, here's my Shakeology cup I still
Oh,
drink
there
out
you
of
go.
with water. But that's where I started after I was retired in pharmaceutical sales. I was trying to get my body back after baby. And then I started doing the Shakeology and the workouts. And then I kind of got roped into that,
Uh-huh.
And
We know the story.
then I decided actually, there was this husband and wife in Arizona that was launching a skincare program.
Mm,
Really efficient system that I'd never seen in dermatology. It was like these pads. So it
mhm,
was like there were 7 different pads and they put a box together for like a whole month and
mhm.
the pads rotated on the days. And so there was 3 specific pads. One of them was antioxidants, one of them was retinol, and the other was a chemical peel. And
Okay.
so it made it easy for you to just pull out and do whatever pad you needed to do. The chemical peel was only once a week. Anyways, this was very innovative to me. And so I stopped doing Beachbody and I started focusing on this dermatology opportunity. Plus, I had a lot of derm contacts from previous
Yeah.
reps and even doctors. I was like, maybe I could even put this in doctors' offices. But
Mhm.
unfortunately, with some companies, that company, I was 9 months in, I had 20% of the business underneath me, and it was just pulled out from right underneath me. Like it was gone.
Oh,
They decided
yeah.
it wasn't profitable. But I will say, I mean, I do have experience in direct marketing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Network marketing. And so when you think about like competition, I would look at it a different way. So instead of partnering with other skincare folks, I would
Mhm,
partner with maybe somebody who was doing Young Living. So
mhm.
maybe they were similar to me, but had a different audience, and maybe we could partner that way. So the idea is you want to focus on a borrowed audience that's similar to yours, but you don't want to do the same thing because then you're competing. Instead, you
Yeah.
want to be a win win. So a win for you, a win for me, and a win for the audience. So I would seek out folks that had a similar audience, that was doing something different. And those are the people I would partner with. And that's how you avoid the competition where it feels more like of a partnership.
Yeah, I love that. And I think sometimes when we talk partnerships, we think that it needs to be like big and grandiose. We need to have a contract in place. And like, I think to the average social seller, direct seller is probably like, I don't know if I really like, I'm not sure about partnerships. But I think one thing that I've really loved over the last year or two is seeing a lot of kind of micro partnerships forming. So I'd love to get kind of tactical on that and talk through, what kind of micro partnerships are you seeing, of course, within Mixermind? How can we relate that back to the direct selling audience? I know I've done some training within our academy on collaborating and how, for a traditional party plan company, you have a host. Really, you're collaborating with that host and they're opening their audience and their door to their people to learn about you. So, any ideas of examples of how social sellers could step into micro collaborations or partnerships from like the smallest baby step forward?
Well, I don't know if I could use the Mixer Mind as the best example for your audience, but what I will share is there was a girl that I knew. I created a quiz for this girl. She was
Yeah.
the number one beach body rep for a few years in a row. And I
Uh-huh.
remember she told me she was going to be number one when I was creating her quiz. And I'm like, you go, girl. Like, and I'm
Yeah,
thinking,
do it.
really? Is she? I don't know. Like, but that'd be cool. And she was really making some moves to get there, but she
Mhm.
believed in herself. But one thing that she did was she would get pregnant and she would eat whatever she wanted. She was still exercising, but she would document her pregnancy. Then she would have the baby. Then she would be like, okay, now I'm, worried about breast milk and this is what, and she would document like that journey. And then there was go time of like, now I need to lose the weight.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, and so then she would stand on her scale and she would show the number and she'd be like, "You know what? Even though the scale says that I've gained weight, what it doesn't track is the way I'm feeling or the way I've been sleeping
Mhm.
or, so she would kind of just track her
Mhm.
journey and then she would get all the way down to like being less than what she weighed when before she got pregnant, right? So she would basically show behind the scenes
Yeah.
of getting pregnant, during the pregnancy, having the baby, the journey of losing weight, and then she ended up having 4 kids, okay? So,
She's
I
like,
almost
"This
felt like
system's working. Rinse and repeat."
almost felt like it was part of her marketing plan. But anyways, it really actually helped people who were on a similar journey. So the micro thing comes in because she's relating to people who are pregnant, she's relating to
Yeah.
people who had a baby, she's relating to people who are on their, trying to lose the weight and she's got this dialed in, right? So she's
Mhm.
showing a lot of behind the scene content, talking about how she's feeling, showing what she's eating. Maybe she's actually eating more than what you would expect, but she's working out. The other cool thing about this is she could potentially do micro partnerships with people in nutrition. Like, for example, there's a
Okay.
girl I love that came out with a new cookbook called the High Protein Plate. We know that protein's really important. So, what if she did like an Instagram live with this particular person? That is like
Yeah.
a micro partnership because that girl is focusing on food. And so, even though the girl I'm mentioning, she was focusing on losing weight, but eating good food and having nutrition and the right amount of protein always makes sense. So, I saw her partnering with like these, like you said, micro partnerships where
Yeah.
maybe they talked about food and nutrition, but the ultimate
Mhm.
goal was to lose weight, right? For her. So she was partnering with these people. She was showcasing her behind the scenes. She was showcasing the journey. And that got her to number one, believe it or not, year after year
Oh,
after
she got
year.
there.
It
That's
did.
amazing. So good, so good. Yeah, I love that example, like, even a simple Instagram live or tagging people in your stories
Mhm.
or showing a little behind the scenes, and they're cross promoting it, and you're sharing what they have, and they're sharing what you have. I mean, really, that's a micro partnership. That is collaborating. That is building your audience based on connecting with others that have a similar audience. So I know you teach a lot of this with your magic match framework. Let's just say that 5 times fast. Magic match framework. So, how would a direct seller kind of figure out who they should be partnering with, who's the right fit, or if there's some that are just like, that's not a good use of their time?
Yeah, so I think first and foremost, when it comes to me and the Mixer Mind, the number one affiliates or partners that are going to do the best for me are the people who've experienced me. And so that's my
Mhm.
members, right? And so for direct sellers, that must be their client. And so
Their
that's
client, yeah.
why I feel like sometimes when I started to do the Beachbody and drink the Shakeology, my coach was like, "Hey, do you want to make money doing this?" I was obviously a client, right, at that time.
Right.
And so she introduced, you can get paid to do this. So number one is clients. Number
Mhm.
two is peers. So you and I, Becky, are peers. We can partner together. We don't have competing audiences. We can try to figure out, hey, what are your goals and what are mine? And how can we work towards that goal together? Same thing can happen if you're a direct seller, is like any peers that you have, any, like if,
Mhm.
I'm talking about the Beachbody girl with being a brand new mom, maybe she's got this mom group and,
Yeah.
maybe they're her peers. And if they're interested and she's losing weight, like telling them, hey, I've got this opportunity. If you're interested, you can start eating healthy, you can start losing weight, and you get paid to do that. So again, you're a peer. And then last but not least, a mentor. So
Mm.
I remember back when I was in direct selling for Beachbody, there was a couple women that were doing really, really well. And when I transitioned to the skincare stuff, I actually reached out to the other women from Beachbody and I sent them samples. And I
Uh-huh.
said, do you want to try this? I'll give you a 7-day supply. Just, no strings attached. Just let me know what you think. And I was able to get them to be a client for me. And
Okay.
so by
Yeah.
doing that, it also opened the opportunity for like partnerships and stuff like that too. So they were
Mhm.
mentors at the time, but I reached out to them, said no strings attached, try this project. I've followed you for a really long time and I think you're going to love it. Like even just using that approach. And I use that too in the Mixermind, for example. Like when I first got into online sales, if there was a mastermind I joined, I would talk about that mentor over and over again, and she would just reshare my stuff on Instagram. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I gave her
Yeah. Yeah.
testimonials. She put them on the sales page. So you can use that strategy for mentors. So the three people for your magic match is clients,
Mhm.
peers, and mentors. And then the
Love that.
magic match is when you have a client. Actually, it's usually when you have a mentor that turns
Yeah.
into a client, then becomes a peer. And those people have so much experience with you that they're the best partners because they're really going to share your stuff with their audience because they've had like different experiences
The
with you and you've built
Yeah.
that trust.
I love that. I love that. And I do think that a lot of it is around building that trust and building that connection. And some of that, I think, really just takes time and conversation too, right? So when we think about how to approach someone, if you're like, oh, like, as Linda's talking this through, I thought of this person, that person that I should be reaching out to and talking about how we might be able to partner. Any suggestions on just how to approach
Yeah.
that conversation, right? Like, how do you do it without feeling like weird or awkward or salesy or like I think sometimes in partnerships we feel like we're taking advantage of somebody or like it doesn't feel equal. And so it's always kind of awkward to maybe start that conversation.
It needs to be
What do you,
clean, right? Like,
yeah,
yeah, you don't wanna go into a partnership where you are trying to take advantage of someone. So,
right,
just sharing
right.
that real
Yeah.
quick, because then it won't feel weird. So, you really wanna try to figure out, like, how do you present it as an opportunity, or how do you pose it as an invite? So it
Right.
feels a little bit more exclusive, right? So, to your point, like, even with I just shared, like, the client, peer, mentor thing, even if you just sit down right now and you write out 2 mentors, maybe you write out 3 peers, and then you write out 5 clients, just having a
Yeah.
list of 10 right there, and then really kind of think of the low stakes, right? So maybe
Hmm.
you want them to become a partner with you and you want them to sell something underneath you. That's a high stake. So
Yeah.
instead of focusing on the high stake, think about a low stake option as an opportunity. So that's why I shared when I reached out to that one mentor of mine and I said, just try this 7 day supply. I'm going to mail
Yeah.
it to you. You're going to like it. That's a low stake, right? I'm not
Yeah.
asking her to like join my team
Join
and
the
start selling my
company.
stuff, like
Sure.
low stake. So you really want to try to figure out, who do you want to ask? What's the
Yeah.
low stake? How can you turn it into an opportunity or an invitation to feel clean? And then at the end of the
Hmm.
day, keep the energy clean. No expectations should be put on somebody else to make your life more fulfilling or better or give you more money. It's got to be no expectations. And then if it works out, great. If it
Yeah.
doesn't, you're still fine because you were fine before, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that. And I mean, I've been part of Mixer now for 2 years. And like I've had lots of conversations with people, and some people I'm like, oh, I think you're really cool, but like, I don't think like there isn't something here that like totally makes sense for us to partner on, but like I'll keep you in mind, you keep me in mind. Then there's others where I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, like this totally makes sense. This is a match. Like, how can we support each other? And I'll come into your community, you come into my community, you come on my podcast. So I think it is just, yeah, like not lowering those expectations that at least initially it's like, oh, it's just like we're exploring this. We're just having
Yeah.
a conversation and seeing if there's a fit. And if there is, great. If not, like you said, like I was fine before, I'll be fine after. I have a list of 10 people in front of me and I'm going to go talk to the next person and see if there's an opportunity there. So I
Yes.
absolutely love that. I love that. Okay, someone's finishing up this episode right now and thinking, all right, collabs are in my future. This is something that I want to be doing more of. What is one move that you would suggest they make this week?
Well, I feel like I just went over that just a couple minutes
The,
ago. Create your list of
the
10
list?
people,
Yep.
figure out what's the low stake. Wait, you got to figure out what the main offer is. Like, what do you ultimately want? And
Yep.
then kind of unwind that a few
Yeah. Yeah.
bits, like a few layers. And what's the lowest stake thing that you could reach out to them about? And then
Perfect.
that's it, really, and just no expectations on if it's gonna happen or not. And I think if you just do that, I think I remember in sales, they said, like, you wanna hear the no's because eventually you'll hear a yes. But you also don't wanna be pushy. You wanna make sure that, like, you're creating an opportunity or you're creating an invitation where it's gonna feel like a win-win. So you
Mhm.
kinda do need to know enough information about somebody before you even go there, right? So yeah, and I think it's just like going back to what you just said too, even when you're meeting somebody for the first time, I always like to pose the call and ask them like, "Hey, tell me about you. Tell me about what who you
Yeah.
serve and what are your goals?" And then I say, "Okay,
Mhm.
can I share my goals with you?" And then what I
Mhm.
do at the end of that call is I say, "I can actually support you and I can do XYZ. But if I can't support you, then I can try to think of at least one person I can introduce you to that can support you." So I do try to have like an action follow-up, but at the end of the day, it's very low stakes. When I get on a coffee chat, it's like, just tell me who you are, tell me who you serve, what's your
Yeah.
goals, and I'll see if I can
Yeah.
help you, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think one thing you do so well, Linda, I've experienced this firsthand, is like if you're not the person for them, you can think like you said, I think of at least one other person that might be a good connection for them. And whether that connection pans out or not, like I feel like that's over delivering after a conversation with someone and connecting people together and saying, like, I don't know if there's something here, but you guys got to get together and talk. And this is what so and so does, and this is what the other person does. And I'll let you guys take it from here. But like I've been a part of those conversations with you many times now, and I think that that also goes really far with the person on the receiving end too, where they're like, "Oh my gosh, Linda thought of me. That was so nice," right? So I think that's just a really great best practice and a reminder that the connections that we have. You might not have a direct benefit from that relationship immediately, but there's probably somebody in your network that could. And facilitating those conversations and helping people connect is definitely a magic power that I think we definitely need to tap into more.
Yeah, but hopefully those ideas help because at the end of the day, you do have to do the reach outs. You
Yep.
do have to
Yeah.
do the invites. You do have to pose it as far as it being like an opportunity that works for somebody. And yeah, and hopefully you're
Yeah.
having fun too during that journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh, I love that, Linda. And it is such a treat to have you here today. You have brought so much wisdom and brilliance to our community. I cannot thank you enough. So tell us where we can connect with you. And I think you may have a little quiz that we can check out too.
Thank you so much. The quiz I created is called What's Your Visibility Factor? And when you take it, you're going to get one of four personalities results. And honestly, each personality results gives you a roadmap on how you can lean into your strengths, lean into yourself, and just gain better visibility, which is also going to lead to more partnerships and collaborations. So that is the best place to connect with me because I really have an engaged email community and that's who I speak to most. So I think, and it's also going to serve you with a roadmap based on your strengths.
Oh my gosh, amazing. So we will link to the quiz in the show notes. You can click on it, you can follow Linda and get that it factor when it comes to visibility, because I think our audience is craving a bit more visibility these days. So again, I appreciate you so much, Linda. You are the best, and I can't wait to see you soon.
Take care.
Bye. This episode is sponsored by CintShare. CintShare is the #1 social media scheduler for direct sellers and loved by creators in any industry. It's truly your one-stop shop for all things social. Join hundreds of thousands of social sellers and entrepreneurs who turn to CintShare for free social media training and resources. Get started today with your free 30-day trial at moderndirectseller.com/CintShare.